Hey there, Alan here, rvacrossamerica.net, and allow me to take you on a journey. I've been on the road about 12 years now, and I love traveling in my RV, and I love visiting history across this nation. And every once in a while, you run into what I refer to as living history. That is a community that still has its 19th or early 20th century history intact, and yet is occupied and thriving as opposed to being a ghost town. And we're about to take a look at a community that was the most affluent community between Chicago and San Francisco around the turn of the previous century. We're turning up Utah Avenue in Butte, Montana, and we're headed towards an area called Uptown Butte. Now, Uptown Butte grew up starting around 1879, and that's a very significant year because that's the year that Edison invented the electric light bulb. And you might say, well, what has that got to do with anything? Well, once the electric light bulb was invented, there was a tremendous need for copper. And this small mining community that started up because of rumors of gold in the area uh, ended up becoming a wealth of copper, a resource for copper, one that had more than 25% of the world's copper. By the way, as we head up this hill, you're going to see standing tall above to the front left is the Hotel Finland, which is, to me, one of the landmarks of this area. It's a multi-story building that was opened in 1924. It's still an active hotel today, and it was modeled after the Astor Hotel in New York City. In fact, as you follow me on this short drive through Uptown, you'll see several references that almost remind you of New York City, and the whole area to me looks a little bit like Greenwich Village because of the fact that there was a lot of brick and mortar used, brownstones, if you will, like they're referred to in New York City. And this area, again, to me, is very similar to that. The fact that brick and mortar was used, of course, these buildings are still standing 100 to 150 years after their original construction. The oldest building in the area is the mayor's home from 1879. We'll go right past that, and it's in pristine condition. You can see from the sign we just passed that there are historic walking tours of the area. The Hotel Finland is up on the upper left of your view here. Even though this is an urban area, there is very little crime and there is very little urban blight. And you'll see that many of these buildings have been repurposed so that they have modern occupants, current occupants in them. And you can see, because the community has historically maintained their original look, that a lot of the signage is still present there. We're again headed up Utah Ave. We're about to make a turn onto Broadway. And as we turn onto Broadway, this is kind of getting into the heart of Uptown Butte. It's a several block area, and I'm going to show you just a small part of it. To the left is the Finland Hotel. By the way, this is can be seen at rvacrossamerica.net/ Butte history. There's a lot more in my post that I would encourage you to go visit there and take a look at see what I've added in the narrative along with additional photos. Many of the buildings on both sides of this street are from 1900 and earlier. They each have monikers along the side. There are again historical tours into this area. You may have also noticed an elevator shaft before we made the turn. You can always go back and take a look at that. And that elevator shaft goes down into what was the mine where the mining occurred in this area. We also just passed the original City Hall from 1890. We're crossing Main Street, and you'll notice the signage, the old signage along the building on your left. To me, it's just fascinating that all this has been preserved and restored. There's a transportation museum on the left. I've yet to see it open. I visit this area regularly. There's a soda shop on the right, again, that's being renovated. Um, we're approaching Montana Avenue. Montana Avenue is another one of the main streets in this area. Montana Avenue has a organic grocer just a couple of blocks down the hill from where we're going to turn that I like to go to. It's called the Rainbow Grocer. It's got some really good organic vegetables. To your front left is a church from the 19th century. I think it's a Lutheran church. I won't swear to that. It might be a Baptist church. As we approach Granite Street, you'll see two things. To the front left is the mayor's home from 1879, and that's still there, courtesy of a building code that they put in where the buildings had to be made of brick and mortar, which assured that they're still around today. To the front left now, you'll see the courthouse, and that courthouse is still in use. Granite Street is another historic block. There's the Hartford Fire Building on the right-hand side that we're passing right about now. Coming up in a few moments, there is the Hennessy Market and another 19th century building that's been repurposed. I've actually been in it because of some physical therapy I went through back in November of 2023. So I've been in this building. It's an interesting building, and it has modern tenants now, and it's even got an elevator that must date back to very close to 1900, probably about 1910, 1920. That's this building along the right-hand side here, and the building beyond it called the Hennessy Market. We're gonna make a left-hand turn in a moment and go up the street a little bit further. And again, all this can be seen at rvacrossamerica.net/Butte history. And you'll see a Motel 6, which is right in the middle of, or in the edge of old Uptown Butte. It's not period specific as far as the building, but it's a great place to have as a stationary spot to be able to explore. Or, of course, there are RV parks all in the area. I'm, of course, staying in an RV park over in Anaconda. We're on Court Street. Notice the theme here. The first two streets we passed were Park and Broadway, seems to be named after New York streets, and now Granite and Courts. And of course, this is a mining area. There's an old firehouse coming up on the right. It's now for archives. And you'll see that coming up just past this next cross street. That's Main Street that we're crossing. And we'll go down Main Street in a minute. So you have the old firehouse here. This dates back to about 1900. And of course, the facade has been cleaned up and redone, but I love the architecture of this area. And again, it's urban and it's safe, and it's a town of about 30,000 people. And I highly encourage visiting both Butte and Anaconda. Anaconda has a lot to share, and my post has a lot to share about Anaconda, even though it's rvacrossamerica.net/Butte history. You can see on the right-hand side an old apartment building that's been renovated, and you can see to the left here, this is the sheriff's building, and they have old tunnels under there that I was told by a sheriff led to a jail, but they couldn't take me in there because they have all their archives in there. We're on Alaska Street, and we're returning to Granite Street. We're going to make a left on Granite and then turn right onto Main. Mhm. As we make this right-hand turn, you're going to see mountains in the distance. Those mountains are actually part of the Continental Divide. You can see a little piece of them straight ahead. They're kind of east and southeast of the city. So it's those mountains up ahead that will come clear in a moment. Um, there's a walking tour company that we're going to go right past. There is also a larger building, a taller building up ahead called the Metals Bank. I actually had lunch there yesterday. It's a bank that opened in about 1907 and was in operation until the 1970s, until they relocated. They've been sold, of course, several times, but you can see the vault when you go inside. I'll have photos of that in the post. And it's a really cool place. It's got really good food too. We're stopped right about where the M&M is. You can see the original site where the billboards are, and the site that you can't see now to your right is the actual restaurant. It's kind of nondescript, but it's got great food and it's a local landmark and an icon. And we're about to turn onto Park Avenue. And Park Avenue or Park Street is again a very historic street. There's a butcher along here that I like going to. There's a couple of cafes, one on the right, one on the left. There's a miners hotel that we're going to park virtually in front of. And this is, again, a great area for parking and for exploring the area. And most of the parking is 2 hour parking. There's one spot that I stopped at that you couldn't do that. Anyway, rvacrossamerica.net/ Butte history. I thank you for joining me in this visit to the town, and I look forward to your comments and thoughts. If you're seeing this on the video, leave it a subscribe and a like and a comment. If you're seeing it on my post, by all means, feel free to um, feel free to leave comments down below.